Recover ancient villages through community development and promotion of local and European heritage. In this video, we will explore together how to recover ancient villages through community development and promotion of local and European heritage. Why is this important? Ancient villages are the carriers of traditional culture, lifestyle, and social ideology based on a certain economic and social structure. They are the integration of humans and nature and the accumulation of history for thousands of years. Ancient villages can and do indeed make an enormous contribution to our economy and our society through its natural landscape, its industries, and most importantly, its people. Let's try together to replace the narrative about rural areas. The ancient villages should never be seen as a challenge to be overcome. Rather, it is an asset that should be valued and nurtured. With a systemic approach, this can become modern, dynamic, creative, and integral part of our identity and economy. What are the challenges? Right now, as we speak, the ancient villages are facing severe challenges because they cannot meet the needs of modern society. All over Europe, we encounter problems of rural decline, backward economic structure of ancient villages, leading to the decline in the vitality of traditional village. The major problems that we have identified with 5 other partners active in cultural heritage preservations are: lack of industry leads to economic difficulties, backwardness of basic supporting system leads to widening differences between urban and rural areas, and hollowing leads to the loss of talented people, resulting in a lack of cultural identity. Therefore, the protection and development of ancient villages have a long way to go. Renewal plans should be carried out on the basis of maintaining the village's historic features, including protection, repairs, improvement, preservation, and renovation. The planning and design of ancient villages should be changed in morphology and function, taking into account both materials and spiritual needs. In the process of development, based on national policies, people-oriented, bringing vitality to ancient villages. What can we do? In the context of the strategy for rural regeneration, on the one hand, we must fully reflect the unique value of ancient villages that are different from the contemporary ones. The active protection of ancient villages cannot replace agricultural civilization with industrial civilization, nor can it replace agricultural culture with simple urban culture. It cannot use rural construction methods to build rural areas, nor can it completely change the traditional layout of ancient villages with the concept of modern planning and design. The ancient villages' form, street space, and architectural styles are important protection objects, while the original cultural customs and behavioral activities of the village are memory inheritance. Based on the rural revitalization strategy, the strengthening the comprehensive function of the ancient villages for tourism development can become a pillar industry of traditional villages, but the development of ancient villages is a systematic and complex problem, and the process of repeated efforts is far from relying on its own internal force. The government, the market, the village collectives, and the villagers, as well as the social forces, need to work together to continue the historical memory and tap the local characteristics. One-size-fits-all solution to rural development might not work. The recommended approach should be to focus on creating sustainable rural communities. This means to support and empower citizens in local towns, villages and their environments to build on their strengths. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, it is a diverse and varied place where innovation and indigenous enterprises must be supported and encouraged. While boosting economic prosperity is crucial, we can integrate actions which support social progress and foster culture and creativity in rural areas. Valuing and supporting cultural activity not only brings new opportunities, but it contributes to the vibrancy and well-being of a local community. Keep in mind that different rural areas have different needs and require of course, different solutions, depending on their local assets, their peripherality, population density. However, we can notice that there are common issues affecting them. We will explore together the 5 key thematic pillars, each of which has a series of objectives and actions. The first pillar, supporting sustainable communities. The key objectives are to make ancient villages a better place in which to live and work by revitalizing our town and village centers and implementing measures to support people to live in town centers. Enhance local services in the community through the provision of support for rural GPs, through ongoing development of the primary care sector to deliver better care close to home in communities, through a support for the rural post offices network to adapt to a changing business environment, and through continued access to schools for children. Empower local communities to ensure that a diversity of voices is heard and included in the local decision-making processes, and that communities continue to identify their own needs and solutions. The second pillar, supporting enterprise and employment. The key objectives are grow and attract enterprise and jobs to promote balanced regional development, support sectoral growth and continued development of the agri-food sector, and roll out initiatives to develop the renewable energy sector and international financial services. Ensure rural communities that have the necessary skills to meet the needs of the labor market and to encourage innovation and maximize assets. The third pillar, maximizing our rural tourism and recreation potential. The key objectives are to increase the tourist numbers, to support sustainable jobs through targeted rural tourism initiatives, including through the support of key marketing initiatives. Develop and promote activity tourism in rural areas through the development of blueways, greenways, and other recreational opportunities. Develop and promote our natural and built heritage through enhanced promotion of the national parks and natural reserve and other natural and built resources. Fourth pillar, fostering culture and creativity in rural communities. The key objectives are to increase access to the arts and enhance cultural facilities in rural communities, further develop and enhance culture and creativity in rural areas through the establishment of culture teams and creativity hubs, promote the local language as a key resource in rural communities. The fifth pillar, improving rural infrastructure and connectivity. The key objectives are bring high-speed broadband to every premises and improve mobile phone access in rural areas. Improve rural transport links through a review of services, support for our regional airports, and investment in rural infrastructure. Implement flood relief measures and other land management measures to protect our rural infrastructure. Concrete examples of interventions. Allow me in the following moments to familiarize you with some concrete examples of initiatives and interventions that were helpful in the process of recovering ancient villages through community development and promotion of local and European heritage. One of the examples in the way that Airbnb helped revitalize ancient villages of Civita, Italy. Until recently, Civita di Bagnoregio was a crumbling hamlet with a population of 10. Now it's home to the first public building in Italy to be listed on Airbnb through a unique partnership aimed at revitalizing the village's artistic heritage. Dating to the 13th century, Civita di Bagnoregio is an Italian borghi, small hamlet, relatively untouched by modern consumerism, characterized by their gastronomic and artistic heritage and traditional rhythms that transcend centuries. Airbnb joined forces with the Italian curator Federico Sala to restore one of the main buildings. Over 6 months, the team worked to painstakingly restore the house and make it available to visitors, with all bookings proceeds given back to the village to support its ongoing restoration. For Airbnb, the restoration project was an opportunity to support rural towns while preserving and celebrating centuries of cultural heritage. Another example I would like to share it with all of you is the story of Tika Darie, a 25-year-old young man who set up a small business in Roșia Montana, a Romanian village. He sells wool clothing items crocheted by women. In 2013, when he started with the first socks on display on Facebook, everything seemed to be just a guide on the net. Today, Tika thinks he can make a living from it. He and a few dozen families from Roșia Montana. Currently, Tika is working on a brochure and a catalog for the store and plans to go to some traditional, organic and mountain stores to offer them a collaboration for the wool socks made in the already famous villages in the Apuseni Mountains. For the children left in the village, he is carrying out, as we speak, an intensive campaign to restore a historical monument that will host a scout club. There's another story that can inspire you. One tourism agency from Italy has designed journeys that allow tourists to experience antiquity immersed in places steeped in history. They offer visitors the opportunity to stay in fascinating structures and perfectly restored ancient stone houses, where they will experience the charm of the antiquity of the ancient village without having to give up the services and comfort they might need. What worked for them and the local communities was that the tourists directly interact with the locals who told them their past stories, teach them local dialect expressions, invited them to lunch, and of course toasted with them the wine of the farmers who wisely is kept in the cellars of the house. So they are able to actually live the life of the ancient villages, of local specialties such as, for example, ancient crafts, traditional cooking lessons, festivals and street parties, with sounds, songs, folk dances and local food. People are craving for authentic experiences, and this is exactly what ancient villages have to offer to all of us. Looking in the future, the heritage sector is already reinventing itself to meet new challenges. Conservation is increasingly geared toward preserving and enhancing a whole cultural landscape rather than an isolated site, and also becoming more people-centered. All the approaches sought to protect heritage by isolating it from daily life. New approaches focus on making it fully part of the local community. Sites are given a second life and meaning that speak to contemporary needs and concerns. Digitization and online accessibility enable unprecedented form of engagement and open up new revenue streams. E-learning tools to promote wider access to cultural content in homes, schools, and university, and allow people to generate, reuse, and add value to content, enhancing the value of cultural collections. As heritage sites become public spaces that produce both social and environmental capital, the cities and regions that host them turn into drivers of economic activity, centers of knowledge, focal points of creativity and culture, places of community interaction and social integration. In short, they generate innovation and contribute to smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth. A wise heritage management can be successful and sustainable, for example, through the energy-efficient reuse of historic buildings and the promotion of greener transport and cultural tourism. Much of Europe's cultural heritage is also embedded in rural areas and remote regions, often closely linked with the nature environment. Here, innovative forms of community-oriented management can greatly improve their economic and social potential.